Hi guys, I'm back with my first video. I wanted to start with talking about primers and why we use them and how to pick the best one for your client, because you are going to come across so many different kinds of lashes that you're working with, and you're always going to hear different things. Like either you don't need to prime, you need to prime with saline solution, you need to just wash and not prime, a million different things. And then you'll come across brands like LashBox LA, where we carry 3 different kinds of primers. And you're gonna maybe be a little confused because you're like, well, I've been told I just need to use saline solution, and now you have 3 different kinds. So I'm gonna break down for you the different primers that LashBox carries, when you're going to use them for each client, and then we're gonna talk about the science, okay, behind why you actually need to prime your client's lashes. So, first off, we are going to start with this guy. This is the primer that I put in all of my training kits when I teach, because this is going to be the most basic, easy to understand, beginner friendly, middle of the road primer. You can use this on every single client and it'll be okay. These are when you kind of know more about your client and you need to adjust to get better retention for them. So this first one is going to be the long wear pre-treatment primer. So this primer, like I said, it's middle of the road. It's not gonna be too stripping to like taking away all those natural oils, and it's not gonna be too moisturizing either. It's gonna be really basic. It also has some tripeptides in here, so it can help nourish the lash, help promote new growth. If you have a client who maybe they're a picker and they have lost some natural lashes, maybe they've gotten really poor extensions done before and they have some damage, this is going to be really great for promoting that growth. It's not going to dry out the natural lash too much, and it's not going to over moisturize it either. Then we're going to drop down. This primer is going to be the Renewal Prep Treatment Primer. This is great for your mature clients, your clients with really dry skin, really dry brittle lashes. This is going to be your high porosity brittle damaged lashes primer. So when we talk about porosity, we are thinking about the hair cuticle, right? So we learned this in cos school, esthetician school. It's the same as hair on your head, it's your lashes. So there's 3 layers to the natural lash, and this is getting a little into the science, but we have the medulla, which is the inner layer. We have the cortex, which surrounds that, and then we have the cuticle layer, which surrounds that cortex, okay? So the cuticle layer lays like shingles does, and it's like this. So if you have somebody with high porosity lashes, it means their cuticle layer, this top guy, is really raised up high, okay? So it's really dry, it's really brittle, it's very grippy, there's a lot of texture going on. So this primer you can use for, usually you're gonna use it for your medium porosity lashes. They're not too high, they're not too closed, they're just kind of middle of the road. You can also use it on any client to get started. Not gonna overstrip or excessively moisturize. This Renewal Prep Treatment Primer, this is going to balance that porosity and bring that cuticle layer down a little bit. It's gonna really nourish and moisturize that lash, because what's happening if we don't use something that's going to be more nourishing, we use something that's going to dry it out more, the natural lash is going to become really brittle over time. You're going to have a lot of breaking, your retention is not going to be as good. When you go to remove the outgrown extension, when they come back in for their fills, it's going to be really difficult. You're going to be splitting their natural lash, it's going to be really damaging, and long term you're not going to have healthy lashes to work on. And the whole goal of our job should be to protect the client's natural lashes forever, because if a client doesn't have healthy natural lashes, I don't have a job. So it's my goal to make sure I'm using the right primers on them. First step is because that's going to allow them to have healthy lashes when they come back to me. There's more things that go into it, but that's the start. So this primer is going to have very little alcohol in it. It's not going to be drying out the natural lash. It's going to be really moisturizing it. It also is going to be taking off that outer layer of if there is any extra oils. It's going to be removing any dirt, debris, makeup, anything that's sitting on that natural lash that's going to interfere with the bond. It's going to remove that, but it's also going to moisturize. Then this last primer, this is our Balancing Lash Toner and Primer. So this is going to be your heavy duty primer that you're usually going to use on your more youthful clients, oily skin clients, really thick, healthy, natural lashes. Usually you're gonna find that in your healthy, youthful clients, because when we're young, our body produces a lot of collagen, our body produces a lot of oils, and then as we age, that production slows down and our lashes become more brittle and they become more dry, that sort of thing. So this primer, what it's going to do, because this is going to be for your low porosity clients, so this is their lash cuticle, and what we want to do is strip off all of that extra oil that's sitting on there and raise that cuticle layer up. This is what that is going to do. It's also going to remove any extra makeup, any dirt, debris, whatever they have sitting on their lashes. Really, it's just going to prep that natural lash. So now the science on why we actually need to be priming. So if we think of the oils on our lash line, everybody has them. We have meibomian glands are inside of the lash follicle, and that is what secretes oil. The oils that our bodies produce, they're naturally acidic. So what that means, if we remember the pH scale, acidic means that there's more hydrogen molecules present in a substance. So hydrogen is H. We have a substance and it's naturally acidic. Acidic means we have lots of hydrogen molecules present. Okay. That is the natural lash, and the oils on our natural lashes are very acidic. And we know when we are using our adhesive, the main ingredient in that is going to be cyanoacrylate. So we're working with a cyanoacrylate based adhesive, and we know that cyanoacrylate is going to cure with the moisture in the air. So to take it a step further, it doesn't bond with just the moisture in the air, moisture being H2O. It's not going to bond just with H2O, it's bonding with the OH part of that. So that's called hydroxide. Okay, so we have hydroxide is OH. And then we have, so if we have H2O and we break it apart, we have an H and we have an OH. So that process is actually called dissociation. It happens when molecules are moving around. You have a substance, okay, this Diet Coke, things are constantly moving around in here. So if this was a can of water, we would not only have H2O in here, we would have free H and free OH. And then things are bumping around, moving around in there. Electrons are being passed back and forth, molecules are being pulled apart, we get ions, we get lone molecules, and they want to go back to a comfortable state. So cyanoacrylate does not just cure with H2O, but it cures with OH. So if the cyanoacrylate needs OH to cure, and we know that there's a bunch of hydrogen molecules on the eye, and we know that hydrogen, because like what we just talked about, if this was water, the more stable form for hydrogen is water, H2O. So if there's OH molecules present, the hydrogen wants it first. So now we're thinking about all the OH in the atmosphere, in the air, in your room when you're lashing, and you have two things that are fighting over that hydroxide in the moisture in your air. Those two things are going to be the oils on your client's natural lashes, adhesive that you want to cure to that natural lash. So what happens if we don't have enough moisture in the air? If the humidity is really low, we know that that means our adhesive is going to cure slower, right? So if you have a super oily natural lash with hydrogen molecules that want the hydroxide in the air, the eyelash, those oils are going to take the hydroxide first before the cyanoacrylate does. Does that make sense? If we have too acidic of a lash environment happening, then our adhesive, there's not going to be enough hydroxide for it to cure. So long story short, let's put it all together. So if you have a client with super oily natural lashes, a very acidic environment, and they have lots of hydrogen molecules on their lash line, we need to neutralize all of those so our adhesive can cure at the correct rate. So any free hydroxide molecules in the air are going to go to our adhesive and not the natural lash and the oils. But if you ever had a client and you know that this adhesive works really well for you in your environment, and then you're lashing them and the extension is just not sticking, it keeps slipping off, you're like, why is this adhesive curing so slowly? It's probably because you need to use a more aggressive primer, because that client might have very acidic lashes, very oily lashes. The adhesive is curing too slowly. And also the second part of that is their cuticle layer is super low. And so there's not much of a grip to that. You set the extension on there and it's just sliding off. So we need to use something that's going to strip the oils off of the natural lash. And then we need to use something that's going to raise that cuticle layer up to give us a little bit more grip. Okay, so that's why you prime. That's why you would use this primer on somebody. So now let's reverse it. Over here, if you have a client who is really dry, what's going to happen here is we still have some oils present. It's still an acidic environment, but we don't have as many hydrogen molecules fighting over that hydroxide in the air. With that, we have adhesive that is going to be curing much quicker because it's not having to fight for that moisture. That also being said, if you have a client with very high porosity lashes, you have a lot of grip happening. So it's almost like as soon as you place that extension on that client's lash, it's going to grab and it's gonna stay very well because we have that grip. So this is the natural lash, this is the cuticle layer. We have that grip, and we also, it's going to be a more favorable environment for that adhesive to cure very quickly. However, we don't want that to cure too quickly, so we're gonna use something that's a little bit more nourishing, lower that porosity level down, because you don't want to place the extension and before you even have a chance to like correct your base, it's curing. So this is going to give your client's lashes more moisture so they aren't brittle and breaking off. And it's also going to help you have a little bit more time to adjust that extension. And then going back to our middle of the road primer, this is not going to give you too much of a stripping effect, and it's not going to give you too much of a moisturizing effect, but it will balance the porosity a little bit. It's going to remove that oil layer, so it's going to neutralize your environment. So we're not having as many hydrogen molecules present. It's going to allow your adhesive to cure correctly. And it's also going to remove any makeup, oils, debris, whatever is on your lashes. So those are the reasons why it's super important to prime and important to know the porosity of your client's lashes. The porosity is going to be a microscopic thing. So a lot of the times it's just going to be trial and error, which is why I recommend to start with this primer. If you notice that your retention's not as great, it could be that they're more oily, that you are kind of splitting the natural lash as you go to remove the extension. It could be that they're more dry, age is a factor. All those things are going to help you determine what kind of primer to use and how to get the best retention for your clients. I really hope this was helpful, and if you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I would love to answer them. Bye.